I swear I tried to be the bigger person. From the moment I married Daniel, I promised myself I'd make an effort with his mother, Linda. I knew she had a strong personality, the kind of woman who liked to have control over every detail. From how the towels were folded, to how her grown son lived his life. But I never expected her to make me feel like an outsider in my own marriage. So when she announced she was planning a family vacation to Florida for everyone, I was genuinely excited. After the last few months of stressful work, I thought it would be a perfect way to unwind, reconnect, and maybe even bond with her. But that excitement didn't last long. It started subtly. The kind of passive-aggressive comments that only mothers-in-law seem to master. "Oh, it's such a small resort, dear. And I don't want to burden you with travel stress," she told me one evening over dinner. Daniel and I had just finished eating, and she'd invited herself over to discuss the plans. I smiled politely, though something felt off. "It's no burden at all," I said, keeping my voice light. "I could use a break," she smiled back, tight and fake. "Well, we'll see how things work out." A week later, I overheard Daniel on the phone with his mom. He was laughing, agreeing to something, and then suddenly his voice dropped. "Wait, Mom, why isn't Emily on the reservation?" he asked. My stomach sank. I stood there frozen as I listened to his side of the conversation. "No, that's ridiculous. She is family." "Mom, come on." After a few seconds, his tone softened. "Fine, we'll talk later." When he hung up, I asked him what was going on. He rubbed his forehead and sighed. "She said the resort's all booked. There aren't enough rooms. She didn't think you'd mind sitting this one out." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. "So your mom planned a family vacation and just didn't include your wife." Daniel looked miserable. "I know, I'll fix it. I'll call her again." But he didn't. Or maybe he tried and gave up. I don't know. A few days later, he told me he was stuck between us and that I should just let it go. Let it go. That phrase played in my head over and over as they packed their bags. Linda, her husband, Daniel's sister, and brother-in-law, even the grandkids, all heading to the beach while I stayed home. The morning they left, Daniel kissed me goodbye like everything was normal. "I'll bring you something nice," he said. I smiled and waved from the porch, pretending it didn't sting. But the second their car turned the corner, the smile fell. I wasn't angry. I was humiliated. That night, as I scrolled through my phone, a notification popped up. "Linda tagged you in a photo." Curious, I opened it. There she was, smiling with Daniel and the rest of the family in front of a luxury resort. The caption read, "Family time is the best time. Blessed, family first, family first." I stared at that photo until the screen dimmed. Something inside me shifted that night. Not out of spite, but out of realization. If she wanted to play games, fine. But I wasn't going to sit home and cry about it. The next morning, I made a few calls. I knew someone who worked in travel bookings. A friend from college named Melissa. I explained the situation, trying to sound casual, though my voice cracked a little when I said, "Same resort, same dates. Any chance there's a room left?" She paused. "Actually, there is. One cancellation just came through yesterday, but it's a premium suite, ocean view, expensive." I smiled. Perfect. Within an hour, I'd booked it, paid in full. If Linda thought she could exclude me, she was about to learn otherwise. 2 days later, I arrived at the same resort, unannounced. The Florida sun hit my face as I stepped out of the cab, pulling my sunglasses down just enough to scan the entrance. I spotted them immediately. Linda in her oversized hat, drink in hand, surrounded by family like the queen she believed herself to be. I didn't approach them. Not yet. Instead, I checked in quietly, letting the front desk staff know to keep my presence discreet. Then I spent the day by the pool, sipping a cocktail, watching from a distance. Linda was in her element, laughing too loudly, waving at strangers, ordering staff around. Every so often, she'd glance around like she was making sure everyone noticed her. By sunset, I'd had enough observing. I wanted her to see me. That evening, I dressed up. A soft white dress, gold sandals, and just enough makeup to look effortlessly confident. I walked into the resort restaurant, where I knew the family had dinner reservations. The hostess smiled and asked, "Table for one?" I smiled back. "Actually, I think I'll be joining my family. The Harrisons." She nodded and led me through the dining area. As I approached their table, I saw Linda mid-laugh. But the moment she looked up and saw me, the color drained from her face. Her glass froze halfway to her lips. "Emily?" she stammered. "Hi, Linda," I said sweetly, taking the empty seat beside Daniel, who looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Surprise!" For a long, delicious moment, no one said a word. Then, Daniel finally found his voice. "You're here?" "Of course," I said, smiling as I opened the menu. Wouldn't miss family time for the world. Linda's jaw tightened. She looked like she wanted to explode. But with the entire restaurant watching, she forced a brittle smile. "Oh, well, how nice." I leaned back, letting the tension hang. That dinner was the most awkward hour of my life. And I loved every second of it. I wasn't rude. I didn't argue. I simply existed. Happy, calm, unbothered. And that, more than anything, drove her insane. After dessert, I stood and said politely, "Well, I should get going. My suite's on the top floor. Ocean view." Linda blinked. "Your suite?" I smiled. "Yes. Seems there was a room available after all." I turned and walked away, heels clicking against the tile, leaving her sitting there, speechless. Exactly the way I wanted her. What she didn't know, though, was that the real surprise was still waiting for her the next morning. I woke up early the next morning, sunlight spilling through the sheer curtains of my ocean view suite. The waves rolled softly against the shore, and for the first time in weeks, I felt peaceful. I ordered breakfast to my room, pancakes, fruit, and black coffee, and enjoyed it out on the balcony while the world below slowly came to life. It was strange, really. I had spent so long feeling like I had to prove myself to Linda, trying to win her approval, trying to make her see me as part of the family. But now, sitting there watching the sunrise, I realized I didn't need that anymore. Still, I wasn't done. Last night had just been a taste, enough to shake her pride, but today was going to leave her speechless. I got dressed and headed down to the resort lobby. The same hostess from last night smiled when she saw me. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrison. Your note was delivered just like you asked." I smiled back. "Thank you." She had no idea what the note said. Just a polite message I'd asked her to hand to Mrs. Linda Harrison at breakfast. As I walked along the beach, I spotted them at their usual table: Linda, Daniel, his sister Chloe, and the rest of the family. Linda looked irritated, waving the folded note in her hand, while everyone else tried to eat around her. Daniel saw me first. "Emily," he called, half standing, his face a mix of confusion and guilt. Linda glared. "So, you're staying here now?" she asked, her voice dripping with annoyance. I shrugged lightly. "Seems like it. Lovely place, isn't it?" She slammed the note on the table. "What is this supposed to mean?" I kept my expression calm. "Oh, that? Just a small update. Since I was excluded from this trip, I figured I'd make it worth something. So, while you were busy planning the family vacation, I was busy finalizing something of my own." She frowned, impatient. "And what exactly did you finalize?" I pulled a folded paper from my bag, the resort's property brochure, and set it on the table. "I bought it," I said quietly. Daniel blinked. "Wait, what?" Linda's face twisted. "You're joking." I shook my head. "No joke. The owners were retiring, and I've been looking for an investment. My travel business is doing well, and this resort is exactly what I needed. Charming, profitable, great location. So when I heard about this place through a friend, I put in an offer. Closed the deal yesterday morning. Her jaw literally dropped. You bought the resort? Technically, yes. The papers are being processed, but the contract's signed. So for the next week, I smiled faintly. You're my guest. For a few seconds, silence hung in the air. Pure, delicious silence. Daniel's sister was the first to laugh. Oh my God, you're serious? Linda didn't laugh. Her cheeks flushed red as she struggled for words. That's ridiculous. You can't just... I can. I said simply. And I did. I didn't say it to humiliate her. Well, maybe a little. But mostly, it was about taking back my dignity. She had made me feel like an outsider for years, constantly reminding me that I married into her family, like I was some guest in my own marriage. Now the roles were reversed. I could see her brain racing, trying to make sense of it. Her voice trembled slightly when she said, "Why would you do something so extreme?" I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Because you taught me something. You taught me that no matter how kind or patient I try to be, some people will only respect me when I stop asking for approval and start standing my ground." She blinked, clearly taken aback. I stood up, brushed the sand from my skirt, and smiled at Daniel. "I'll be in my office if you need me. The manager's showing me around today." Daniel opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. He just nodded. As I walked away, I heard Linda whisper sharply, "Unbelievable. She's turned this into a spectacle." I turned slightly, just enough for her to hear me say, "No, Linda, I've just finally joined the family business." Later that day, I walked through the resort with the manager, discussing renovations and future plans. I was serious about running the place. I wasn't doing this to gloat, at least not entirely. But that night, as the family gathered for a farewell dinner on the patio, Linda approached me, alone. Her voice was quieter than usual. "You really did buy it?" "Yes," I said. She hesitated, then sighed. "You've always been more like your own woman than I gave you credit for. I guess I never expected you to outplay me." It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough for her. I didn't want to outplay anyone, I said honestly. I just wanted to belong. Linda nodded slowly, her tone softening. "Well, you belong now, more than any of us." Apparently, for the first time in years, there wasn't a trace of sarcasm in her voice. She turned to leave, but then stopped. "For what it's worth, it's a beautiful resort. You'll do well here." And just like that, she walked away. When Daniel and I checked out a few days later, Linda actually hugged me goodbye. Awkward and brief, but still a hug. As we got into the car, Daniel looked at me and said, "You really surprised her." I smiled faintly. That was the idea. He reached over and took my hand. "I'm proud of you, Em." I looked out at the resort one last time. The place where I'd been excluded, humiliated, and then reborn. "Funny," I said quietly. "Sometimes when people shut you out, they end up opening a door you never knew existed." Daniel smiled. "So what now? You gonna rename it?" I thought for a second. "Yeah, I think I will." He grinned. "What'll you call it?" I looked at the ocean, calm and endless. The Second Chance Resort.